Practice is the most important thing when it comes to succeeding in any field. While perhaps most closely associated with education, it is very important to maintain consistent achievement with regular and best practices. Practice makes perfect is an old age dictum that you may have been hearing all your life. But in reality, practice does not make perfection. It makes improvement, which is absolutely important for professional and personal development of an individual. Knowledge is a treasure, but right practice is the key to it. It is of no value unless you put it into practice. The more efficient you are with your practice time, the more focused your sessions, the more quickly you will learn, and the faster you will excel. As we know that when leaders are at their personal best, there are many core practices common to all. They model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and last but certainly not least, they encourage the heart. Today, we at Indiannica Learning are taking this initiative to lay out the awareness through our panel of experts on the most salient talking point, best practices of school leaders in the new normal. And as they say, don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. A very good evening, namaskar, sat sri akal and adab to one and all. My name is Swarup, your host and moderator for the day from Indiannica Learning. Welcome you all to this fifth Learning and Education Leadership Talk series on best practices of school leaders in the new normal. I hope you all are safe and doing good. Well, today in this special session, we are honored to have with us Shri Anil Swarup sir, who is joined by Dr. Nicholas Correa as our panelist. And now I would like to introduce the Managing Director and CEO, Indiannica Learning, Mr. Sumit Gupta, with all of you. Well, Mr. Gupta is a graduate in Commerce and Law, an alumnus of IIM Calcutta, and a member of FICCI's Publishing Committee. He has been into education sector for around 2 decades. I request Mr. Gupta to please join us and say a few words to our wonderful participants. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Swarup. Good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to have all of you join us for another enlightening and insightful session in our Learning and Education Leadership Talk series. This series is our endeavor to connect a school community with renowned speakers and experts in the field of education. This is also in our line with the mission, which is to enrich the experiences of learners that we connect with. And in that mission, we connect with various school leaders and educators to design solutions and create products that can make learning exciting and relevant in today's scenario for the young generation that we cater to. There have been many challenges in the past that we have faced, and especially the schools, educators, and academicians have faced in past many decades while dealing with the young kids. I believe that the COVID-19 pandemic has thrown one of the biggest challenges that we may have seen. The challenges like, providing digital infrastructure, creating engaging lesson plans to create the entire, to engage the students, just like the real-time classes. It'll be making online classes available and monitoring the performance of the students. And there may be more which come in. And as we start, as we gear up to start the school session now, hopefully things will return to normal, though it will be a new normal. So that's what we are bringing today in our session today, which is best practices of school leaders in new normal. We are trying to cover and look at closely how school leaders have managed to rise to the challenge and have identified the best practices that we can use in schools post-pandemic in what we will know as a new normal. So in today's session, we are very fortunate to have Shri Anil Swarupji, who is the former Secretary of School Education, Government of India. So I would like to welcome Shri Anil Surupji. And an introduction of Shri Anil Surupji is that he is an author of not just a civil servant. He is an experienced public servant with demonstrated history of working in school education sectors. Before joining the IAS in 1981, he served the IPS for a year. He won the Director's Gold Medal at the LBS National Academy of Administration amongst the officers of his batch. As a strategic thinker and an innovative leader, he has won several awards and nominations. We always had a lot of opportunity to learn from him, and his words are really nuggets of wisdom. Welcome, Shri Anil Surupji. Joining Mr. Anil Swarup is an esteemed panelist and school leader, Dr. Nicholas Correa, Principal and Executive Director at New Horizon Public School, Navi, Mumbai. Welcome, sir, and thank you for joining us, Dr. Correa.
Thank you.
We had planned another eminent panelist to be available with us, Mr. Puneet Kothapa, who is Executive Director, Narayana Group of Educational Institutes, Hyderabad. Unfortunately, he could not join us because day before he sustained an injury, which made him not available for this event. So we regret that. However, I am hopeful, we'll have a wonderful session with Shri Anil Surupji and Dr. Correa being there, and we'll learn a lot of things which we can implement in our schools. So without much further ado, I will invite Shri Anil Surupji. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those very kind words, and compliment to Indiannica for continuously pursuing the post-pandemic management. And I think leadership skills will be or are already being tested for the school leaders and otherwise, because this is a very, very unusual situation. I don't think anyone had imagined such a pandemic would hit us, and no one would have imagined that it would last as long as it has. So this has certainly created a number of challenges for the leaders in the school segment. I normally don't watch television, and I follow news primarily on social media. And I was aghast to see the number of teachers that were protesting on the streets of Bangalore, consequent to an order issued by the state government. So let me start from here, because to me, that is one of the many challenges that the school management and school leaders are going to face. There is a crisis at hand, and everyone recognizes this fact. Now, how do you handle such a situation? The state government apparently issued an order reducing the school fee by 30%. I'm not going into the legality of that order, that only courts and judiciary can decide. But my contention was that unless we sit down and talk to stakeholders and convey our opinions to them and discuss across the table, while appreciating the problems that each one of us are facing, I think such orders may not really be very helpful. When I was school education secretary, or even before that, when I was school secretary, I had always believed in getting down to a discussion with all the stakeholders, because discussions can actually resolve a number of issues. If post-discussion they don't get resolved, yes, ultimately the government has the authority to pass an order, and everyone has the duty to obey that order, unless it is rescinded by a senior authority or by the courts. But I wonder whether that dialogue is happening. I have been interacting with a lot of schools in the context of COVID, and I think those schools that have managed to negotiate, discuss with the parents have had a better time. I don't know, Dr. Correa probably will be able to give a better practical experience on that front, but I think this is a huge challenge, because the parents feel that there has been no school, and hence why should they pay the fee at all? The schools feel, and probably rightly, that all the expenditure that they have to incur is being incurred, whether it is on maintenance of buildings, of electricity, or salary to the teachers. All expenditures that are required to be met with are being met irrespective of COVID. So the expenses are there. Where is the money going from? But we must also appreciate the problems that the parents are facing, because a large number of parents are not getting paid, or they have lost their job as a consequence of this. So there is problem on either side of the front. It is not that the teachers are to be blamed, or the management is to be blamed, or the parents are to blame. I don't think blame game is going to solve that problem. The best way to go about solving such a problem is sit across a table and have a discussion and try and appreciate each other's issues. I came across a number of ways in which people are managing this. Some, of course, are finding it loan extended to the schools, to the parents. Some have mutually agreed to reduce the fee. I'm not saying what needs to be done, but the best way to go about it is to sit and have a chat. This is very important in the context of a long-term relationship between parents and the school. And I'm not very sure whether the government should get into it. It's a mutual relationship between parents and the school, and almost every school has a parent body. It can sit down and discuss with the school and then find a solution. If a solution is not found, then the government can come in as an arbitrator, not a regulator. We have somehow forgotten this role of playing the role of a facilitator. As school education secretary, many people used to ask me, what is your role? I used to say that I am the principal facilitator, Government of India. I help people achieve what they should achieve. I am nobody sitting here in Delhi to direct about such things, because maybe sitting in Delhi, I did not have the entire information regarding the problems that were faced in the field. It is always better to discuss and find a solution. This takes me to the second point, because I'm looking at various stakeholders in the post-COVID phase, or as it is called, the new norm. Hopefully, the COVID will abate. And that's a hope that I have. But still, it won't totally abate. There are things to be done, and I'll touch upon some of them. Let us look at various stakeholders that we are talking about. I think the principal stakeholder is the child, the student. We must understand what the student is going through. And I think whether it's set of parents or school teachers or principals or even government should keep the child at the center of all discussion. Because any decision that the government takes or any decision that the management takes, if it adversely impacts the child, then all the purpose stands defeated. So how do you go about it? Let us look at the child. In my understanding of this COVID, I think the biggest hit is psychological for a child. And people tell me it's the learning gap because they were not learning during this period. I am not very sure whether that's the biggest problem. Yes, it is a problem. Learning gap is a problem because children have missed out on their schools. And I don't think the internet-based learning classes that some schools have had are going to replace what they would have otherwise learned. But fortunately, a child has a fertile mind. And I don't think catching up with learning will be that big a thing. But psychologically, this child has been hit. Imagine as a senior, as an adult, living inside four walls of a house is very tough. Imagine a child who's always out either with his friends in schools or playing elsewhere, or even while studying, he's in touch with the world around him. Now the child is not in touch with the world around him. So he's under enormous psychological pressure. I have interacted with a number of children on the web, and I see that they feel the pressure. I have grandchildren who are school going, and I can see the pressure. They want to go out and they're stuck there. They can't go out. So that's a huge, huge psychological burden on the child. So when he comes out, he has to be handled appropriately. And whether the schools are prepared, whether we are prepared, that is a question which the management, teachers, and everyone will have to ask. Second, of course, is the learning loss that they've incurred. So the schools will have to prepare that bridge learning course to help them graduate. So if a child was in, say, class 5, he's not studied much in class 5. From 4th, he or she is directly going to class 6. Can we have those bridges? Many schools that I have interacted with have already prepared that bridging, so to say, course where they will teach the first month when they come physically to the school, and then they switch over there. I think Dr. Correa will be a better person to explain what exactly are they doing in terms of bridging that learning gap. And that's very important because 1 year is a huge time. It's not 1 month, 2 months. It's a full class. But I'm not so hassled about it because given the fertility of child's imagination, given the capabilities of our children, I think they should be able to catch up. What is more important, another aspect, is that though COVID would have gone away, I think there has to be some discipline that has to be brought into some schools. I know of a number of schools who have worked out clear-cut protocols for teachers, for children, for other staff in the school. It is to be understood by each one of them. The teachers have to understand the importance of, like, for example, I'm very fond of cricket and I was watching the match between Australia and India yesterday in Ahmedabad, and I was shocked. I was shocked to see that majority of the people who had come to watch the cricket and were in the stadium were not wearing their masks. No, what is this going on? No, everyone talks about it, but when it comes to practice, it doesn't happen. Now, if this happens in the schools, then we are in serious trouble. I think the protocols will not only have to be worked out, I think most of the schools have actually worked out these protocols. The question is whether these protocols are understood by the teacher, not in terms of mere understanding it, but understanding the necessity of it, the why of it. The protocol should not be taken as if someone else has given these protocols. I think the teachers should understand the necessity, the utility, the efficacy of these protocols. That's very important, because with some of the schools that I interacted with, and I've been interacting with quite a few of them, they have indeed come up with the protocols, but unfortunately, the messaging of those protocols is not as effective as it should be. So the protocols are there. It's like laws and rules. We have these traffic rules. The moment we don't find any sipahi standing close by, we cross the road. So until you internalize those protocols, it's not a question of a punishment coming to them that they will be fined with so many. That's, of course, you can do that. But more importantly, the person should understand that, for example, even in traffic, why should you wear a helmet? It's not because there is a rule that you should wear a helmet. If you don't wear a helmet, these are the consequences that. Now, this needs to be conveyed not only to the teachers and the staff, but also to the children. Now, it's not very easy to wear a mask throughout the day. I did that on a few occasions, and it's reasonably uncomfortable. Now, to get a child to keep wearing that mask is not going to be easy. You know, the new norm of wearing mask is wear it here and not above your nose. I've seen that. Many people, for the sake of wearing it, put the mask here. Large number of them. First of all, most of them are not wearing masks. Those that are wearing masks also are not below their nose. Now, this is going to be very, very harmful. So as the schools reopen, as they will, I think not only have the protocols to be clearly outlined, they have to be clearly internalized amongst those that have to use it. If they're not internalized appropriately, I can guarantee it won't happen. And as has happened in some of the schools that reopened, COVID pandemic can be back. It's not gone as yet. The intensity may have receded a bit, but I keep hearing every day that new strain keeps coming. Even if it doesn't come, I think that discipline has to be very, very clear. And if that doesn't happen, then we could be in serious trouble. The third part is getting the child back to some sort of physical activity. He's yearning to get into it. But I think the schools will have to work out a regime for enabling that physical activity to happen. Because, I mean, as I said, I have interacted with a few children and they are yearning to go out and start that activity. There again, one will have to be careful about the protocols, post-COVID protocols. If we don't do that appropriately, a single case in a school is going to jeopardize the entire school. So one has to be extremely, extremely careful regarding what needs to be done. The other stakeholder, which is a very important stakeholder, is the teacher. Now, my contention would be, now that the government has announced a more elaborate form of vaccination, all teachers should need to get vaccinated at the earliest. That's the least that can be done. That has to be done. Because they will not only get themselves vaccinated, they will be demonstrating to others, including children, that getting vaccinated there's nothing wrong in it, and there's no unnecessary or wrong fallout of getting vaccinated. So that, to my mind, is very, very important. The next is that the child has been studying, most of them at least in the urban areas, on the virtual mode so far. Now the teacher will come in. I think one of the positive fallout of COVID has been that both the child as well as the teacher have got used to IT applications in school education. I think it has been fast-tracked, and IT applications can be extremely, extremely useful in conveying a particular idea or explaining a particular concept. I wish when I was a child myself, I recall, I was fortunate to have very good teachers, but there were a couple of them who I shouldn't be using this word, who were very boring actually. It was very difficult to sit through their class. And now when I look back, if they had this instrument of technology with them, probably they could have made their class much more interesting. One good thing about technology is that it has made learning a pleasurable experience. So the teachers will have to see how they can leverage that. The problem there would be that the child would by now have got hooked on, probably legitimately, to his or her telephone. Now, telephone has all sorts of information. Telephone and web is actually source of all information. Now the question is, what information is the child seeking on the telephone, on the web? Now again, this is not going to be easy. I've been speaking to some tech companies, and I've been telling them that can we come up with such material which is so attractive that the child does not look at other aspects or other information which can be harmful to him or his psyche. Now this is a challenge which is emerging. So the teachers will have to be very careful on how to continue to use this technology, to make learning a pleasurable experience. For that, I think the teachers themselves will have to equip themselves in terms of first knowing the possibility of use of technology. Most of the teachers are using technology, but I think if they start learning from each other, they will be able to further improve upon the manner in which technology is being used for learning. There was a suggestion in one of the discussions earlier that how about replacing teachers with technology since teachers are not available. I put my foot down. I feel that teachers cannot or should not be eliminated or removed. I think that human essence of a teacher is extremely critical for the growth of a child. You cannot replace a teacher with technology. However, technology can be a great instrument, a wonderful instrument, as I said, to value add in terms of making learning a very pleasurable experience. I saw that, as I was mentioning. I remember as a child, I found it very difficult to understand Archimedes' principle. But as school education secretary, someone came up and showed me a 1-minute video, just 1 minute of Archimedes' principle, and I understood it in no time. I'm saying that just to illustrate that technology can be extremely useful in terms of making, as I said, a pleasurable experience. Now coming to principals or the managers of the schools, I think their leadership skills are going to be tested. They're already being tested in a number of contexts. How to keep the teachers motivated, how to make the teachers learn in the new norm, how to make the teachers understand the importance of technology, how to make the teachers understand the protocols that you develop and to see that the protocols do work with the children. Now, it's important because teachers are the pivot around whom the entire school education system revolves. If the teachers are unable to understand or appreciate what needs to be told, what needs to be done, I don't think we will be able to reach out to children. So in order to reach out to children, I think it will be important for the management as well as the principal to have this communication with the teachers and try and convey the messages that need to be done. I will just take a few minutes also to explain how the schools will have to be prepared for the national education policy that was announced last year. Because thanks to COVID, much of it could not be implemented so far, but I think implementation will begin. And there are a number of things in the national education policies which schools will have to implement. However, the good news is that the government has so far, at least, not mandated things under the policy. The policy is merely giving a direction, but there's no mandate as yet. Soon you will see these mandates emerging from state governments because most of the mandate will come from the state government. So my suggestion to all the schools has been that your associations should engage intensively with the state government so that you are able to put your point of view through before the state government comes with an order. Because once the government issues an order, then it becomes embarrassing for them to withdraw it. So for example, there is a provision of certification or accreditation of schools, and the national education policy talks about a separate regime for accreditation. It talks about for central schools or for government of India schools, there will be a separate regime for certification, and for state schools, there will be a separate regime. But they've also said that they're going to be split. They're going to split the state education department. One part of it will be running the government schools. The other would be more of a regulator. Now, how that regulator is going to evolve, whether there would be another Inspector Raj coming in, is something which only time will tell. But I think the school managements, the associations should get into a dialogue with the government to see how that regime is put in place. Because if this regime is not put in place appropriately, then it would, my apprehension is, there could be another form of Inspector Raj coming in. My personal view was that instead of government body doing this accreditation or certification, they could have easily found some private bodies like QCI who could undertake this registration. I had suggested to CBSE that even for their certification, why is CBSE getting into these inspection and all? They can get a third-party inspection done and they can easily do it. Of course, these are all questions that we need to be discussed. Then the policy also talks about that there would be mother tongue, the medium of instruction would be mother tongue from class 1 to 5. Now, this is not mandated in the policy to start tomorrow, but at some point in time it will come. So it would be worthwhile for school associations to interact with the government as to when is it coming, how is it coming, how will they migrate to that, what are the financial implications. All these will need to be understood and discussed with the government. Similarly, there is a talk about, and one of the finest provisions of the policy has been regarding preschool education. Now, large number of urban schools have preschool education. Those that haven't will have to work out an arrangement with an existing preschool or set up preschools at their place. Now, these are areas in which I think a lot more discussion needs to happen so that it works out there. Similarly, the national education policy enables vocational education from class 6. Now, are the schools prepared for that? And if not, then what are the consequences? If they have to prepare, then what do they need to do? They have to set up laboratory. There is a cost involved in it. How they're going to go about it. And hence, it's important for them to understand the implication of this and other provisions of the policy. I'm not going on and on national education policy. If there are questions, I'd like to answer them. But I think this new norm has already started hitting us. The schools, the management, the principals and teachers will have to be prepared, should take this threat as an opportunity for further improving regarding delivery of education, using technology, as I said, to make learning a much more pleasurable experience. I'll stop here because it's very easy to keep on talking. I thought I will interact with more of you and get your questions and answer them rather than speak on my own. So thank you once again, Indiannica Learning, and compliments to you for organizing such webinars where clarifications and other things can be given. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shri Anil Swarup, sir, for your wonderful inputs, valuable inputs. Indeed, I've been listening to you, and obviously, whenever I listen to it, has been a wonderful gift for me. In this 15 minutes of, I would say talking, I have learned a lot of things, and I'm going to take away. This is actually a broad perspective, right from establishing a discipline protocols, from the guidelines for students to teachers to principals, and last but not the least, the wonderful tips on implementing national education policy guidelines as well. It's indeed a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful inputs. And now we are moving ahead with our panelist, Dr. Nicholas Correa. At the same time, I would like to announce that in case you have any question to ask to Shri Anil Swarup, sir, and also to Dr. Nicholas Correa, I just request all of you to please use Q&A option to write your question, and then we're going to give you permission in the Q&A session to speak your question directly and to interact with our esteemed guests. Now, moving ahead, we have along with us a person who has earned enormous respect in his chosen field, Dr. Nicholas Correa. You are serving as the principal of New Horizon Public School, Navi, Mumbai, and as the executive director of New Horizon Group of School under aegis of Nagar Yuvak Shikshan Sanstha. You have been serving as an educator in various capacities for the last 27 years. With a global outlook and an Indian insight, you facilitate best attributes in the education industry. With a vast experience in pedagogy, curriculum development, administration, setting up schools, your focus has always been to develop the complete persona of children. You have been the center superintendent and observer for AISSE for conducting CBSE class 10 and 12th board examination, JEE and NEET. Also, you are in the CBSE inspection committees for granting CBSE affiliation to schools, and also you are the lead school principal of CBSE Hub of Learning. Under your leadership and the efforts of staff and students, New Horizon Public School has been awarded as one of the top CBSE schools by Education Today, Hindustan Times, Brainfeed Magazine, etc. Thank you so much, Dr. Correa, for joining us today. We are honored to have you in this panel discussion. Since you have been developing curriculum with the team based on the guidelines of National Curriculum Framework, emphasizing collaborative and cooperative learning approaches, experience and joyful learning, 21st century skills, I request you to please kindly suggest all our wonderful participants about the best practices or techniques which are very helpful to set the academic and administrative management of an institution in this new normal. Over to you, Dr. Correa.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Swarup. Thank you, Mr. Sumit Gupta ji. It's also my pride to be with Anil ji, who is also known as, is also a very known figure in the education sector. I welcome each and every parent, teacher, and all the stakeholders who are the audience here. Last 11 months, we might have seen a change, and this change was not a simple change. Since COVID-19 pandemic has erupted, we might have seen day-to-day changes. When it started 11 months back, no one knew how to respond. And it put us into unprecedented situation. How to come out of this problem, no one knew. But all the stakeholders, especially the educationists, the educators, the schools, management, and all the stakeholders very positive. We found most of the private schools coming together and looking for a change, and overnight they switched over to virtual schooling. They found an alternative. It was difficult and it was not the best solution, but there was no other solution available. Since there was no other solution, what are the solution available? It seems to be the good solution. There could be some other, there might be so many implications of this solution, of this virtual schooling. What are the implications? We could keep across the country, across the globe, all the educators could keep the student community engaged to certain extent. Though as Anil Swarupji said, there would be learning gap, there was a learning gap. I agree, there was learning gap, but despite all, we could make our best, and definitely from the stakeholders, from the wonderful suggestions of various people, from the parents, from the government authorities, competent authorities, and the boards, definitely we can find a better solution. Though initially it seemed like a temporary phase, everyone thought it would be around 15 days or 1 month or 2 months, but we already spent 11 months into this virtual schooling. But this time, though it was difficult, I understand it was tough, though it is unprecedented, it has taught so many skills. As Anil ji said, it has brought us into a new learning of new skills, like 21st century skills. So far, prior to the pandemic, there used to be so much hue and cry about 21st century skills. Every day used to read in the social media, maybe in the newspaper, about 21st century skills. No one exactly knew what these 21st century skills are, what is coding, what are other 21st century skills. But this pandemic, overnight, put them into this 21st century skills, learning the skills. What is this 21st century skills? Like problem solving, better communication, collaboration. So in this pandemic, definitely we had to collaborate. We had to collaborate with different stakeholders. We had to get in touch with the trainers. We had to get in touch with the academicians, academic bodies who would give us resources, who would give us now and then the appropriate study material, who had to train the students and also the teachers. So all this could happen maybe over a period of around 11 months. Initially, around 15 days, especially in our school or all other schools, I found teachers could adapt and adopt to the new change within a week. Initially, all teachers were reluctant because so far they might have been exposed to video conferencing for a friendly chat, but to teach in a classroom they were not used to. In a classroom, only student and the teacher used to interact. Now here in the virtual schooling, now teacher doesn't know, initial stage teacher didn't know who was watching them. There would be parents or there would be even others. Initially, Zoom was very popular. Everyone got into this mode and there were various safety issues. But the best part of this is, over a period of time, teachers also learned what are those safety measures through training or through searching, researching. They learned the safety measures and also guided the students. And over a period of time, there were better modes also which came and everyone equipped themselves for better safety. So this virtual schooling also, this conferencing also got into safety mode. So it was not that difficult to handle the safety measures over a period of time. Today, every teacher is able to handle. If at all, this COVID-19 pandemic didn't erupt, so it should not erupt at all. If at all did not erupt, I don't think there could have been so much of change. There could have been so much of collaboration. There could have been so much of problem solving and finding innovative solutions. These are all 21st century skills. So we got into this, all this finding of new solutions. In a traditional classroom, generally, teacher takes a lesson, there are interactions, maybe there are projects, they get into this. It gets into more into examination oriented. Ultimately, the outcome is what are the marks and what is the qualification, how are you going to be qualified in grade 10th and 12th? You need to get into a better stream, maybe medicine or technical side or any other stream in arts or commerce or rest of the humanities. But here now, these streams over a period of time, during this time, children and the teachers, they learned so much to access and they got so much of access to information. Now many of them know what are those streams. Till then, there used to be so many career guidance sessions. Even after giving career guidance session, it used to be so difficult to guide many students what stream had to be taken after 10th or after 12th. But I found during this time, when I interact with many parents, even with the teachers, we come to know many children already know about many of the streams, maybe through various webinars they've attended, maybe the information which is getting circulated in the social media, maybe the various informations which is being shared by experts somewhere. So, but whatever maybe, now today they're exposed to a lot of information. So this COVID-19 pandemic, though it has disrupted, though it has created havoc in all fields, it has also done something good. Every coin has two faces. So also even COVID-19 pandemic phase also has got two faces. Let's not see only destruction. Let's not only see havoc. Let's also see the positive side. I know if there is a loss of job in a family, I know what is the pain. Only those people have undergone this pain, they would know this. It is very difficult to experience and undergo this pain. Despite all, if at all we see or look at things positively, it is very easy for me to say from here, look at things positively. But definitely, these words, this power, positive power, creates an energy. So we need to look for positive energy. And I found many people have got into this, though there are section of people also become pessimistic because they have lost job, they didn't find a maybe alternate arrangement, so they have got into pessimistic mode. In the meantime, we have seen lots of students and the parents and the teachers getting positive. Let's see what is best for us. That is how that positive attitude among the children, among parents, so has given rise to adjust and adapt to this new situation. Let's see what is happening to learning. In the traditional classroom, the learning is to take place through observation, through imitation, by trial and error, by insight, by maybe passive learning. So everything is to take place. Class is to take place. Now is to learn from others. Maybe there's interaction is to take place. The children, those who didn't know a particular problem, they would observe how others would solve and they would learn it. That is learning by observation. Same way imitation. They would imitate certain skills of certain people, maybe good ones, not always something bad. There are n number of things which they found. Maybe there is a public speaking event. Now children look at those children coming on the stage. What is the body language? How is the expression? What is the delivery of the content? So what are those main points? How is the eye contact? How do they communicate a message to the audience? These all things they learn through observation. But these things which could not be done through our virtual schooling, children at loss of learning through observation. Yeah, it might happen, but to a great extent, learning through observation, learning through imitation is a great loss. In the meantime, trial and error can take place. It can take place in virtual schooling. It can take place in the traditional schooling. Learning by insight. It is suddenly your teacher is teaching something and you get a solution. You like maybe a sixth sense is working and you got the solution. That is learning by insight. And others also look at you. Okay, this is how it happens. So children again imitate such children. Okay, how did this child do? Maybe certain skills are among, yes, these children have got certain skills. So this interaction is leading to collaboration. So this type of collaboration happening both in traditional school, even now in the virtual school. One advantage of virtual school is I found in CBSE schools, we have got, I think most of the CBSE schools have got this preparing of portfolios. So every subject, the children are preparing portfolios. I think in the beginning of the year, children are given those tasks and the timeline is given. So they interact, the groups are made and they interact how those projects are done. So a lot of collaboration taking place. They discuss what is the insight. Maybe one group of children are preparing certain part, another group of children are preparing something else. And they have got their own study material like worksheets, skills sheets, or certain certificates, whatever they have achieved, or certain some of the achievement details. So they put everything together. Thereafter, there is a discussion. Even in this virtual mode, such things are happening a lot. And they come to know through others. Yes, they can get into such site, so and so site. There is a lot of learning taking place, a lot of researching taking place. So though earlier days, we used to tell children, yes, don't sit on the computer so much, don't use electronic devices, reduce your timing. If you used to sit around 1 hour, 2 hours, we used to tell them, yes, sit for around only 1 hour, reduce their timings, especially in the lower classes to discourage them. Now we ask them, yes, come on, use these electronic devices because the entire day goes into this. Because this is the change, we need to accept that change. Because earlier it used to be a punishment. Now it is a compliment. So because with the change of time, certain things we need to always accept. So there is a next type of learning, the passive learning. So during this COVID-19 period, so there's a lot of passive learning taking place. Maybe though I'm at home, maybe there is a wonderful learning taking place. Generally, we hardly used to give time to our families. Now during this phase, almost 11 months, the families have come together. They've known each other so much. So educationally, I can say, so there is so much of insight getting into this. There is a family education. The education is taking place other than the curriculum. There is other part of the education, informal education taking place here. As educationists, we also guide children, parents, and the teachers how to make best use of this informal education. We will not get this opportunity again. Once the schools start formally again, maybe we will not get so much of time to spend with our parents, with our brothers and sisters, with our grandparents. Maybe we have come to know so closely. Maybe some parents hardly spend time with their children. Now this pandemic has made, though time was difficult, they sat with them, maybe had their lunch or the dinner with them, so they could share their difficulties, they could share their happiness. So a lot of things, even other times it might have happened, but especially this time has given them as part of the education. Many children, even otherwise earlier, they used to spend almost around 6 to 7 hours in the classroom. After going home, they used to be again in the skill classrooms, or they used to go for their coaching classes, or they used to be in maybe other extracurricular activities. So time spent at home was very, very less. But as an educationist, I would say, now this pandemic has brought them together, given this opportunity. So now we need to make use of this opportunity. Okay, what are the time left now? Now, as the mandate has come from most of the states to for the schools to reopen, as the corona cases are reducing, as COVID-19 pandemic is slowly receding, though there is a second wave, so the news is coming, especially in Maharashtra and Kerala. I think cases are slightly rising. Despite all, I think students in higher classes are coming to school. Now, this is a big challenge now, especially for educationists. Now, how to face this new challenge? Now, children, those who are coming to school, their eyes are on the playground. They want to be into activities. And again, they think now, earlier, maybe 11 months, we were at home, we were just watching the electronic device and we are learning. After coming to school, are we only restricted to a classroom? Are we going to the lab, activity rooms, playground, and going to have other projects, group activities? Yes, these are the challenges one has to maintain. Now it is in the hands of the educators, as teachers, principals, how to handle this situation. In the meantime, as Anil ji said, we cannot ignore the fact COVID-19 pandemic is not receded. It's still there. We cannot ignore. Though it is reduced to a great extent, we need to follow all the basic protocols. But following this protocol, especially in the classroom, I was just interacting with a few students the other day. So I'm getting suffocated. It's true. Then I have to tell that child, okay, good, but please come out of the classroom, have a fresh air, then get inside the classroom and please wear your mask. So this can happen, but we need to handle those situations in a very, very, very sensitive way. In the meantime, we should not see that, we need to see to that their emotional sentiments are not hurt. So this COVID-19 pandemic, now there's other problems now. Now children are slowly coming to school. Now the higher class students are coming. Now there is a reluctance among the children. I found majority of the children wanted to come to school earlier. Maybe if when I interacted 5 months back, all of them wanted to come to school. They were always waiting for this. Now also section of children, they feel, my God, 11 months we are at home. Now again we have to go back to school. What are we going to do? So they have got a new dilemma now. So we as teachers, we as educators, as principals, now we need to create an awareness among the parents, among the children, and we need to bring them out of this dilemma and how to face the situation. Maybe it is a phase, small, brief phase, so we can overcome at any time. So now other problems which would be faced during this time. Now that not that all children are coming to school. Maybe every classroom there would be around 20 or some classes around 10 children, or all others are not going to come because only those who are given parental consent, those children are allowed. But what about those children? Children, those who are at home, they also need to be kept engaged. So teaching, learning is taking place both virtual mode and physical mode simultaneously. It's a big challenge for the teachers now. Now currently, now we are doing that. So maybe schools have got this additional expenses, maybe installing additional routers, installing additional internet connections, definitely, but it has to be done. By doing this, now again, teacher is looking at the electronic device. Now children, those who are sitting in the classroom, they feel even in the virtual schooling, teacher was looking at the electronic device, and even in the classroom, teacher is looking at the electronic device. Now this problem is coming because we need to keep engaged both those who are in the classroom available physically and those who are at home learning virtually because we need to keep them engaged. So what our teachers say right now, okay, we'll have this after our classroom, we can have a doubt solving session. So there is an interaction taking place. So interaction, yes, it could be both through virtual mode and again the physical mode. So these are certain challenges we are going to face now. Maybe some places when the number of children would be more and few children at home, maybe problem would be still severe. So how to face this? Maybe we cannot have one standard solution. This all can be learned through trial and error and through experience. That's why in CBSE schools, not only CBSE school, across all the boards, we say now we are promoting experiential learning. So experiential learning, it's not only for the students, experiential learning for everyone, every stakeholders, for the teachers, for the school management, for the parents, and for other competitive authorities. For everyone, it is the learning phase. So next biggest problem right now children are undergoing, or maybe to a certain extent even the educators, is a psychological and emotional problem. Because any electronic device which is kept in your hand or touching your body definitely going to create radiation in your body. Through this radiation, definitely there would be certain chemical changes happening even in our body. It's causing inconvenience, causing us trouble. So when we are into that, is going to lead into certain issues. So this type of things are indirectly leading to emotional problems too. So now when these are emotional problems, now every school, I think most of the schools have got certain corners or maybe certain arrangements like talk to someone. So maybe they talk to the teachers, maybe talk to the principal if possible, they talk to someone, they've got school counselors. So parents need to, maybe they find the child is not speaking at all. So they need to inform the concerned teacher. They need to inform, they need to bring to the notice immediately so that timely solution is found, because it is found among many. Is found among many. I don't say most among, though it is found among many. This problem can be solved. How it can be solved? By positive guidance. Definitely, when we speak to someone, we are taking out everything. So children, maybe they are at home, they are not exposed to the sun, not exposed to the outside air, the fresh air, lack of fresh air because of sitting inside the classroom, or sitting at home, watching the classroom, learning through virtual mode. We are confined to the four walls. So that has created a lot of issues. So we also need to, when they come to school, we know that though there is social distancing, we need to maintain. We can conduct certain amount of physical education classes. So though we cannot conduct games because there is going to be a contact if you conduct games. So we can conduct certain amount of exercise so that children are exposed to outside air, they're exposed to the sun, so that they're able to equip. And as they start coming to school now within few months, so they will be better equipped to these new changes. Whatever may be having said and done. So this COVID-19 pandemic has changed 360-degree everything. So far, we are running the schools in a particular mode. So COVID-19 pandemic has changed 360 degrees in 11 months. Now, what is going to come next? I am not aware. You are not aware. The changes are going to be quite swift, quite swift. So we need to be always ready to adapt to this change. Changes are not difficult. Maybe sometimes adapting to a change may be slightly difficult to certain time. But once we make our mind, once we prepare our mind, definitely we can accept changes. Because since though COVID-19 pandemic situation was difficult, it was most difficult situation, we could handle it. Now, what is going to come? Maybe furthermore difficult, we can handle it. Now, what is important? The positive attitude. When we look at these things, say, whatever the change, I am ready. I am ready to learn. But if I regret, if I say, how will I do it? Then there would be a problem. As educator, as educationists, we need to be always learning, create, not only making our own philosophy and ideology. We need to see what is the ideology of other people. What is the ideology, new ideologies, new ideas coming in. So we need to get into a lot of innovations. In the meantime, there would be a lot of, I think, competitions happening in this education industry now. So in this competition, especially the educators will be in dilemma, what to choose and what not to choose. Because over a period of time, now current mode, I think this type of things are going to be changed. Now we already have a school bag policy. In the school bag policy, I think school bags are almost empty. That means we need to give very light, because it's also very important, because you cannot burden the children. So when there is a school bag policy, now the days which are going to come, I think children are going to carry hardly any books in their bag. Maybe they will be taking the water bottle and tiffin box, and hardly maybe few books. Everything, I think it looks like indirectly, everything will go now through, not everything through virtual mode, but definitely artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and other IT modes are going to play very, very important role. Now, everything would maybe, whatever the reality, maybe augmented reality, virtual reality. So everything, we need to be ready for this change. Now, schools also, as Swarup ji rightly said, we cannot replace teachers. Yes, definitely. Number of teachers over a period of time might be reduced, but teachers cannot be replaced with the robots. Robots are created by human beings. They will not have feelings. Now, who is in the classroom? In the classroom, we do not have products. We have got human beings. Human beings need, now who can understand human being? Not a machine. Only a human being can understand. So teacher's role cannot be replaced by a robot. Though many say that, I think we also read a few months back, there's a school in Bangalore already replaced, I think they already installed robots in their classroom. I don't know much about that, but I just read in the newspaper. Maybe over a period of time, it might happen. Despite all, whatever is going to happen, whatever the changes going to happen, teacher's role is always going to be there. But teacher cannot be as today. One has to change both in the vertical qualification and horizontal qualification. Vertical, I need to horizontal, I need to update each and every day, each and every moment. I need to see how to learn new skills. What are the new changes taking place in the industry? What is required for our students? What is required when the students go out of the school? Are we preparing them? That's what the new education policy, NEP 2020, prepares them for this change. There are certain things, I think so. This document is created so well. There are certain things, I think I also find this almost around 360-degree change even in this education. Earlier education policy in 1986, which was revised in 1992, it was done at an age where there was no technology. Now, I think everything is spoken through virtual mode. Everything is spoken through, I think everywhere the technology is playing very important role. So now, for whatever we are going to do, technology is going to play very, very important role. So let's accept this change. That does not mean our values are going to be replaced with technology. We need to maintain our traditional values, the compassion, love for each other, accepting others, always sharing our things. This cannot happen through machines always. So our human qualities need to be there always. Whatever the change, we need to retain our human qualities. We need to be always good human beings, useful to the society, so that we are constructive citizens of this country. That's what, if you become machines, we just put a product here and we just expect outcome. What is that outcome? We would be seeing only monetarily. So human beings' outcome cannot be measured through money. It is much more than that. We are human beings. There are so many values. These values make us good human beings. Money may be one part of this, very, very important. But values cannot be ignored. These values will make us good human beings. As educators, we play very, very important role to make these values and retain these values. What are the traditional values? How to impart these values in our classroom? How they would learn through interaction, even in the virtual school, even in the virtual reality, how they can learn these basic human qualities. They might be saying, I do not have, maybe if I ask them to share, I do not have a brother or a sister. Today is a world of only one child. Despite all, when you can say that, yeah, I know that you do not have anyone to share. Maybe you can find your friend, or you can find someone. There's no one, share it with your parents. Maybe it's a chocolate, or maybe you got something, you got a gift, maybe you got some food, or whatever thing. When you share, there is joy. So let whatever change come in, let whatever maybe the new innovation, but our values should always remain. I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Indiannica. I thank all the audience. I thank everyone. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Correa. Indeed, it was absolutely marvelous listening to you. Like, there were a lot of points to take away. I'm sure every participant is going to get benefited with your pearl of wisdom. You've started with the excess of information, the problem areas nowadays. After within this 11 months, what all challenges people faced, educators, students at different levels, and then slowly, steadily, you started talking about the solution of every problem. And there are many things which I really liked. Like, we have to prepare our mindset first of all to be able to deal with all the challenges. Should have the positive attitude. We should leave our comfort zone and be ready for the change. That's absolutely. We should also understand that vertical and horizontal qualification. We have to learn something new, and whatever we learn, we need to expand our learning with respect to that information or that learning that we have achieved. Yes, there was benefits of traditional teaching learning process wherein students used to observe, imitate, interact with the teachers, with peer, and with the co-students, which is of course not as good as in the virtual sessions. But yes, as you said that the digital sessions and this COVID has taken a lot of things, but it also has come up with a lot of opportunities. And we should once we focus on the positive aspects, then definitely we can make our surrounding and ourselves positive, and we can deal with the 21st century skills with a positive mindset, and that's how we can make our future of the country having a lot of skills and doing good in their life, preparing portfolios, time which can be spent with their families as of now, which they should learn how to imbibe social emotional learning, that can be done nowadays. And there has to be awareness which should be which should be taken care of to make children come out of the dilemma now. So there were a lot of things, sir. Like, it was indeed lovely listening to you, and thank you so much for your wonderful suggestions for both maintaining, managing the academic and the administrative levels in this new normal as far as best practices are concerned. Thank you so much for that. Now we are starting our question answer sessions now. So as I said, that those who have any question to ask to our respected chief guest and respected panelists, I request you to please put it in the Q&A, and our team is looking at that and will going to give you permission. Those who are watching us on YouTube, I just request all of you to please use the chat option, write your question, and then we're going to pick questions from YouTube chat list, and then we're going to ask on behalf of you. Also, I just request all of you to please stay tuned with us. By the end, we're going to share a survey form with you, which is subject to the availability of your participation e-certificates as well. So now, sir, we're getting a lot of questions, Anil Swarup, sir, and Dr. Nicholas Correa. To start with, the very first person, who is Mr. Vaibhav Gajanan Baramukh. Mr. Vaibhav Gajanan Baramukh from Pune, who is having a question. So, Mr. Baramukh, I request you to please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
So, as everyone knows that the current pandemic which is going on nearly from a past year, so it has caused a lot of dizziness among the students, among adults also, as well as among the students mostly. So a lot of things are explained regarding, you can say, how to, you can say, cope up the children from all this after they come to school and all. But now this dizziness or this laziness which has come, mental as well as physical laziness which has come among the students, many are losing interest in studies also. And you can say continuously staying at home. You can say they have, developed a different mindset mindset means you can say some many psychological problems and all you can say are there. So that's why what can be done by you can say teachers as well as by parents also to cope up the students with this psychological stress and to take them out of this you can say situation.
All right.
See, I'm not an expert, but let me give a couple of suggestions to you. You know, one thing you must understand, because I did not have much time to interact with my own children because of my job, but now that I'm interacting with my grandchildren, I understand that they are so adaptive. Children are so adaptive that I see amazing change in them. They may be a bit dull when they're inside. Expose them to openness again, expose them to their friends again, and you'll see a change. You know, the beauty of a child, unlike an adult, is that he's much more adaptive as compared to an adult. It's like saying that he gets annoyed soon and he gets happy soon. So it's a question of how do you engage with the children now? I think the effort will have to be a bit more. The teachers will have to engage with them one-on-one in smaller groups and larger groups. Engagement will have to be more. But I have absolutely no doubt that most of the children will come out of it. The problem only which I see is to get them off their telephones. You know, what has happened during this pandemic is that they were already hooked onto a telephone or their mobile phone. Now they had a legitimate reason to be with the mobile phone because they couldn't go out, they were on the mobile. That would be a bit of a trick. And that, you know, to change any habit, you have to provide a more interesting alternative. Because if you don't do that, merely hitting them or telling them not to do it, they will do it. It is now a challenge to teachers and the management to see how do you provide an alternative, more attractive engagement for the child. I can assure you on one thing, certainly, that once they get the open field, once they get back to their friends, I think they would cherish it much more than sitting at home. So this is my personal experience. As I said, I'm not an expert at it. I'm telling you a bit with my personal experience. I think Dr. Correa would be a better person to elaborate on this issue.
As I said, Anil ji has already rightly said, it is always the experience which makes one to handle this. Definitely, we should not break our head into this. We get into any situation. Let's go back in the month of March. Were our children prepared for that? Were our children prepared for being inside the four walls? Not at all. But they got adapted. So they accepted change overnight. They had to do that. What made them to do that? The situation. When we put anyone into a situation, definitely changes occur overnight. But now here, situation, now it is when they come to the school, you might say it is an old situation. They already know it. Now it is always said that necessity is the mother of invention. Now as educators, as teachers, we need to create certain situation, as Anil ji said, to engage children. Maybe what are those things? Maybe good projects, maybe activities. What are those learning activities? Maybe it is less of teachers talking, more of involvement of the children, more of fun, where they would enjoy, they would laugh, giggle. So we should not restrict them from all this. Definitely, when 10 children say, okay, the class is so fun, so 50 other children will come running because they always ask, how's the class? They ask their classmate. If they say boring, okay, 10 others would go back. For 50 others to come, we need to make our classroom fun-loving. And I think our teachers today make our classroom fun-loving. And other things, maybe which both teachers and parents can do is getting them into meditation, putting them into small exercise, not directly asking them to meditate. It's very difficult, I know that. Getting them into small exercise, thereafter asking them to meditate. You might say how to meditate. We did not have any expertise in this. Put some music or keep a light. Just keep looking at this. Close your eyes and looking at it or listen to your music. And over a period of time, maybe 5 minutes, naturally you will cool down. You will cool down. Whatever the thoughts come to your mind, don't worry about that. Let the thoughts come. It is natural. Keep listening to the music. So that itself is a meditation. So over a period of time, once a child knows how to listen to music, so child already learns how to concentrate. Over a period of time, child would learn how to meditate. So these are some of the skills, some of the ways how we can emotionally, I think this will even handle emotional aspect, because child's mind is, meditation is going to make child's mind stronger. I think this will help them to overcome even emotional, I think the imbalance created at emotional level, I think it is going to be built up.
Perfectly fine. Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much, Anil, Swarup, sir, and Dr. Correa. And I hope you have got the answer, Mr. Barmuk. Thank you so much for your question.
Definitely, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now, up next, we have Mr. Gautam Kamal Kishore. Mr. Gautam Kamal Kishore, please unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm speaking from Bokaro Steel City, Jharkhand.
Right.
Sir, my question is that seeing the role of the IT in education while we were taking the classes of the students, why not the online B.Ed and M.Ed courses should be given permission by the universities, seeing the role of the IT? My question is to Dr. Anil Swarup, sir. Please, sir.
If I understand what is taught and the manner in which it is taught in B.Ed and DLED colleges, it entails a lot of practical application of what you learn. It's not merely doing any BA or MA class. There's a lot of practical experience that is required. So whereas you can learn a lot through digital mode, otherwise, the practical training has to be, you have to be physically there to do that training. And hence, that is the reason that I foresee that it is not happening. I would be very glad if they permit digital or virtual learning as far as their physical other courses are concerned. But I think practical training will have to be in the classes. Without that, I don't think the teacher would be well enough equipped to start teaching otherwise. So I agree with you. The digital learning should be permitted as far as the other books and other curriculum is concerned, but practical training will have to be done practically.
Yes, sir. Practical training has to be given at some other places also. That can be done through some other places.
Right. Thank you so much, Anil Swarup, sir. And thank you so much, Mr. Kishore, for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Now, up next, we have Mr. Anil Banda Gaurav. Mr. Anil Banda Gaurav.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Myself, Anil Guru from Maharashtra, Sangli district, Sangli. My question is to Anil Swarup, sir. What is the importance of the board exams of standard 10th and 12th as per NEP 2020? Importance of these board exams.
So these board exams will continue under the NEP. A slightly surprising move is to have board examinations for classes 5 and 8. That surprises me, because I would believe that the board should focus on class 10 and 12 more than the board exams earlier. But that's what the policy is. I don't think there is any decision that has been taken by either the state government or the central government in this regard. My personal view is that we should reduce these sorts of examinations, because examinations unnecessarily put a lot of pressure on the child. As it is, examination put a lot of pressure. Imagine a board exam for a child of class 5 and class 8. I remember my own days, class 10 and 12 used to be enormous amount of pressure on one's mind because of they being board exam. So I'm not very sure whether that's the right move, but that's how the policy is. But as far as class 10 and 12 are concerned, I think the existing system of board exams will continue, and they should continue, because that is where you are graduating or you're going on to a next level of education. So that is required. Those will continue.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, we're going to take one question from YouTube live chat. We are getting a lot of questions, and out of which there is one question to Dr. Nicholas Correa. Sir, she wants to ask a question to you, which is, I'm just going to read on behalf of her. Like, what new skills are you looking ahead while hiring the faculties in the new normal? Will it pose a challenge to the teachers who believed in the traditional teaching methodology?
I think it's a wonderful question. So, as I said, I think earlier also I said, every teacher who has got positive mindset definitely is not going to look back for any change. So traditionally also in the traditional classroom, now if you go back to pandemic, so teachers used to teach always in the chalk. Many of the teachers were teaching through chalk and talk method. But virtual mode, what they do? They had to get into problem solving. They had to convince the child what the content is. They didn't know the psychology of the child. They had to learn that. How did they do this? They learned overnight. Even now, any change, I don't think a teacher is going to face that problem, because teacher is going to teach the child, because teacher is psychologically equipped how to handle a child. That means who can teach a child? Only when I know something, I teach my children. Correct? Same way, I am equipped. That means I am completely equipped to handle the situation. Maybe certain information I may not have, but learning a skill is never a difficult thing. Maybe getting certain information, so we can anytime we can update ourselves. I don't say that every time we need to have all the information. Practically not possible. In this world of information, it's practically not possible to know everything. But learning a new skill, that it's not that they need to have 101 skills, but skill what is required to teach a concept. You will know this. Whether maybe you are teaching blood circulation, can you just give a definition and teach them? Maybe showing through augmented reality. Definitely child is going to see that. What is the blood flow? What is the blood circulation? Child is going to watch. So thereafter you are going to ask question. Maybe you are going to show a water pipeline, maybe in your society, maybe somewhere. So when you are showing that how this water is flowing, you are relating, is correlating somewhere. So this type of correlation, I think definitely teacher is doing even today. Learning a new skill is never difficult. Even a teacher who is into traditional mode can go anytime. Only we need to be a little flexible. I know that changes are difficult, but it is not impossible.
That's right. Thank you so much, Dr. Correa, for this valuable answer. Now, up next, we have Miss Smita Mahaske. Miss Smita Mahaske, I request you to please unmute and ask your question. Smita, ma'am.
Hello, sir.
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. My question is, can you, sir, throw light on COE lectures that teachers are attending? Within the stipulated time, it has been asked that COE lectures to be completed. So can you throw some light on the same? Center of Excellence.
This question is to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think for this, we need to go through the CBSE bylaws. If you go through the CBSE bylaws, it's an in-service training. Every teacher, I think there is annual training and tri-annual training. In an annual training, we have got, I think, 5 days of training. I think they consider each day is around 10 hours. In this 5 days, 3 days supposed to be in-house training and 2 days by COE. And some of this training, I think, is conducted by COE. Now they are preparing them for the new changes, which is happening with the new curriculum. So attending this training from COE is must. Unless we attend, we will not be equipped for the changes. Now CBSE COE is better equipped to train us, correct? Those teachers, those who are conducting this training program, they are already trained. They are trained by the master trainers. They know what is going to be taken in the board examination, what is there in the curriculum, how various issues need to be handled, what need to be taught to the children. So they are going to handle on those skills and competencies. I think there are certain things I have seen. I think there are programs even conducted through Diksha platform.
Diksha and Nishita activities are also there, sir.
So even they are also valid. And any government approved programs, I think, which are done, I think they are also valid. I think COE programs will help us because it is conducted by CBSE. If you are a CBSE teacher, and definitely you'll be better equipped with, I think, and they will be training you with the new changes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. One more question. According to NEP, it has been introduced B.Ed course for teachers, right? 2 years integrated course, 1 year, 3 years, it has been introduced. So my question is, already those who have done with the B.Ed, so is there any need to complete the B.Ed again for the NEP?
Let me answer that question because I handle the national education policy.
Yes, sir. Yeah, sure.
The ongoing courses will not be impacted. If you've done a 2 years course or whatever course that you've done, you got a degree, it will stand valid. It is only when the integrated course gets implemented. It's still not implemented. There's no order The curriculum has still to be finalized. When that happens, it will happen. But that's one of the finest moves of national education policy, because I must share this with you that as Secretary of Education, I discovered out of 16,000 B.Ed colleges and DLED colleges, 4,000 did not exist at all. They existed only in a room or something, and they could give degrees to people around, and that was actually destroying the school education system in India.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that the national education policy has come up with this integrated 4-year course. It will not only help in weeding out the fraudulent B.Ed colleges, it will enable the student to take a call regarding becoming a teacher immediately after class 12. Right now, I think education or teacher's job is of the last resort. Then the child will have to decide after class 12 whether he or she wants to become a teacher and then go ahead with the integrated course. So that's a brilliant move. But I don't think anyone who's doing a course right now has to be apprehensive. They will continue to be recognized till the alternative is announced by the government.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you so much, Smita ma'am. Now, up next, we have Miss Kaushalya Seshadri. Miss Kaushalya Seshadri.
Good evening, sir. I'm from Gurgaon. So one of my question is, are you going to train the teacher for the NEP implementation? Whereas we are also doing some Diksha app experience learning we are completed out, and CPE is also we completed. Whereas, hello.
Yes, please go on. Please carry on. One can hear you.
Sir, do you have any platform to have our training? If so, what type of workshop which you are going to conduct? And second question is, if you are asking about the collaborative learning, so how we are going to get the collaborative learning for my students, sir? Thank you very much.
I think I have been out of touch with the actual operations for the past 2.5 years. Dr. Correa might be in a better position to explain about collaborative learning.
Yes, if you are in a CBSE school, if you see, I think it's already a hub of learning. So I think neighboring schools have come together and a hub is created. And I think there are around 5 to 10 schools. So keeping collaborative learning in mind, I think these hubs are created by CBSE. Same way, NEP is also promoting, if you see, there is one word called, I think, educational complexes. They are going to promote the school complexes. What is the school complexes? Neighboring schools coming together, sharing the experiences, sharing the resources, and learning from each other. That is one part. Now, when it comes to students, how to learn from each other? Maybe, can we take these students there? Maybe there are certain events where we exchange our ideas. We are taking them maybe for certain events. There can be a small field trip. Maybe there are certain training programs for the children. Maybe those children come to your school or you go to their school. There's a collaboration happening in learning, exchanging your views, sharing your things. So maybe there's a training when you are conducting alone, you need to bear expenses. So when 2 schools come together, 3 schools come together, so your expenses are reduced. So this when you say collaboration happens in many ways. That is the purpose of creating hub of learning in CBSE schools. Right now we have got, I think our hub of learnings are working effectively, and many schools are sharing their resources, their ideas, and also the trained teachers, the master trainers, those who conduct trainings for teachers, principals. So they also, if they are in that hub, now they conduct their sessions and they also give that insight how this collaboration can take place. And I think this collaboration, I think is a wonderful, outcome, I don't say outcome, wonderful idea, which is promoted by, not only by NEP, I think it was there even by NCF. NCF was, I think, focusing so much on this, on collaborative learning. And I think you also might have learned about constructive theory of learning. I think in that, I think a lot of stress is given, making how to construct knowledge. So collaboration is one of the ways of constructing knowledge in this theory of constructivism. Hope I have, to a certain extent, made it clear to you.
Yes, sir. Seriously, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Correa and Kaushalya ma'am. Because of time constraints, we're going to take a couple of 2-3 more questions. That's it. Now, up next, we have Miss Meenu Gupta. Miss Meenu Gupta, I request you to please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My question is that, this year, since the situation was different, children have not had much of writing practice. Now, as the schools are announcing their exams offline, I see a lot of stress in parents and children. So do you think, hello?
Yeah, please carry on, ma'am.
Yeah. Do you think that, this year, there should be some different mode of assessment for the students? Because after all, whatever is being done for the students, for their welfare, for their growth, I mean, giving them stress and tension, I don't think the examination is that bigger than the students. So my question is, does everybody agree with me that there should be some different mode of assessment for a year like this, where children have hardly had any interaction, direct face-to-face interaction, hardly any such writing examination kind of atmosphere they have faced. So what is your take on this, sir?
If I understand the system correctly,
Hello?
in my information, so as I said, I'm not directly in touch with many. There is no examination for classes up to class 10. It is only the board examinations that will happen. Other classes, I don't foresee examinations happening. If they are happening, I'll be a bit surprised because, as you rightly say, children are not really prepared. Who's mandated taking of exams from class 5 to 8 or 9? Is there a mandate somewhere?
9 to 12 schools are doing, especially 9 to 12 schools are taking offline exams. They have the pressure. We are preparing children for the next session.
As I said, if a school takes a decision to take an exam, it's a school's problem. My suggestion to those schools would be, don't take an examination because it's unnecessarily putting pressure on a child who's not been able to study this year. So examinations will have no meaning. That can be only a suggestion. I don't think government or CBSE or anybody,
there's nothing
from
the government side. Yeah, there's
absolutely.
Nothing from the government side.
That's a personal choice of a school. They have to take a call.
Absolutely. And even for the board classes also, if we see, they have not, mostly we see there's a lot of tuition culture. Children have been attending tuition, multiple tests they have been attending there. This year they missed on that as well. They've missed on direct school examination as well. For them also, I think there has to be some different system other than just reducing the syllabus or giving them choice. Something concentrate for the students.
Yeah, if I understand them correctly, they have indeed reduced syllabus quite drastically.
Yes, and syllabus has been reduced, no doubt.
So, there is up to class 9, I can appreciate not having an exam. But thereafter, since you are, as I said, you are preparing yourself for a different world, examination would be required for class 10 and 12. They may curtail the syllabus, as I understand they have, but the examinations have to be held. But how else the child goes on to a higher level? In other classes, to my understanding, it's not so important. So whereas I agree with you that in other classes, examination should not be held and it's left to the schools, for classes 10 and 12, I think some sort of an examination will have to be held.
I think, somewhere, but what I feel is my personal feeling, like, as we are preparing ourselves for NEP, NEP is not completely depending on these written testing. So this was the best chance to, try something new where situation, forced us to, where everybody could have, thought of something where, just depending upon got that much assistance as they normally get in the normal time. This was my point as well. Many might not agree because in India, we have always I've seen the system where child's or anybody's intelligence is tested on, pen and paper test mostly. So, but this was a chance school to come up with something where, we could have eased out children's this thing and as well as tried something what NEP actually says.
I think there are many changes. Even if the examination is conducted, I don't think this examination is going to decide passing and failing of the child. Maybe it is conducted as a mode of learning for the child. I don't think the decision would be taken to detain or not. It will not be part of that. Assessment would be part of their regular learning. That would be, even if it is whatever the assessment conducted. Secondly, coming down to NEP. So as Swarupji already said, NEP is not yet implemented. I think many of the aspects, though what is there in this, I think we are already seeing they are being implemented unknowingly or knowingly. Many of the things are already in place.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Thank you,
Right.
thank you
Thank you so much, Ms.
very much,
Gupta.
you know,
Thank
for
you so
answering
much
my
for your
question. Thank you very
question.
much.
And thank you. Now, up next, we have another question. I'm taking it from YouTube. The question is for Dr. Correa, and he's asking about what strategy and planning has been taken up for this 5+3+3+4 formula in the NEP 2020. What strategy is being taken up?
As it is rightly said, I think Swarup ji has already said that his policy is not yet implemented. And secondly, this is a concurrent, I think is a concurrent issue. It is handled by both by center and the state. It is not only central government is handling. So you've got both the governments which are independently handling, both the state government and the center. That's what the concurrent policy is. Now coming down to this 5+3+4. Now there's a dramatic change, which is I also welcome this. It's wonderful. I think earlier it was only grade 1 onwards. It was in part of the universal education. Now even pre-primary, because a lot of learning taking place even at the early stage, that was ignored and it was not considered as a formal education. So now I think earlier we used to always ask for the strength for grade 1 and above. Now it would be nursery onwards. So that is very important part of learning, because the maximum learning takes place for any child with an age from 0 to 5. I think maximum concepts, basic concepts are built by this time. I always appreciate the committee has taken this decision to include pre-primary education into this and made universal education. Coming down to next two, that is class 1 and 2. Then class 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12. Now here, the concept of senior secondary or higher secondary or a junior college is done away with. I think we have got only secondary now here. Is a choice of subjects where child can choose. Right now, we have got what are subjects given in the curriculum. So here, the policy speaks about choice of subjects. Now coming down to 6th onwards, there is pre-vocational courses. In this pre-vocational courses of preparing the child for the vocational courses for the grade 9th and 12th. Now here, 10 hours need to be allotted to know about their local crafts, local vocation, local. I think children would be one collaborating with locality. There's also going local, and as we are becoming a global world, we also must not forget what is happening in and around. That's why this education policy also stresses so much to know your surrounding demographically and even geographically what is happening there. I feel here there is I think the policy says there is no hardcore separation between vocational education, co-curricular activities, and other core subjects. I am also not pretty clear when it is implemented how it is going to work, but that is what the policy is speaking about. No, I think hardcore separation between co-curricular and the core subjects. But when we start actually whether the schools are equipped, because even schools need to be equipped. Now tomorrow you want to conduct a course in music. So your school should be completely equipped, not that you just conduct singing classes. You need to have the instruments, you need to have professional trainers, we need to have that proper curriculum. Yes, curriculum would be developed by NCERT or SCERT, but other things, school need to be equipped for this. I think if this happens, it would be always a wonderful move.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Correa, for your wonderful answer. I hope you have got the answer. Now, we're going to take the last question for the day. And this is by Miss Anuradha Tigdi. Miss Anuradha, I request you to please unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah, as Anil sir rightly said, like now that NEP is still not implemented, and we need to form organizations or come collaboratively and see how it has been to be implemented and how government is having policies. So are you planning to have any platform for such kind of organizations who can come together? Like basically I'm talking about private schools who can come together and try to see what are the things what are to be implemented and how we can easily get into it. Hello.
I don't really know who this question is addressed to. I'm not very sure also that Indiannica can create that platform for you to come through it together. What would typically happen, as when I was school secretary, Government of India, there were associations of private schools who used to come to meet me. My suggestion to you would be, if you don't have an association in your state, get into that association, create an association, and let that association or representatives of the schools talk to the state government. I am assuming by your name that you are from Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, there are already some private schools associations. I think they would be best to articulate the views. You have to understand national education policy very intensively, because once the orders get issued by the state government, then it will be very difficult for you to get them changed. It is best to get into a dialogue right now and try and inform the state governments about the implications of education policy. I have always believed that you would know where the shoe pinches. Government will never know where the shoe pinches. They will come out with a policy. But again, having been in the government, I used to interact a lot with the associations to get a feedback regarding what was in the offing. So my suggestion would be that before it is too late, form an association or join an association and let those representatives talk to the government.
Yeah, thank you so much for the information, sir.
Right. Thank you so much, Anuradha ma'am, and thank you so much, Shri Anil, Swarup sir, and Dr. Nicholas Correa for your insightful, valuable answers on the questions. Now, we are getting a lot of questions, but because of time constraints, we cannot take all the questions. So those who have written their questions our team is gonna look at all the questions, and then we're gonna mail your answers, by these experts only. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Sumit Gupta to please join us for the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Swarup. Thank you, sir, Shri Anil Swarup-ji. It is, as I keep saying every time, it's always a great, wonderful experience to listen to you and get those insights into things that we would have never thought of, and the inspiration that you give, sir. I was just looking at, one of the couple of key takeaways which are there. The child should be the focus. That is very important, because right now, since we have been conducting these webinars, and this is the 5th in that series, most of the questions that we see and most of the concerns that we see, and even when we are interacting with these schools, it keeps coming. And what will happen to their learning? Whether they'll be performing in the exam or not. I think it is more important to be focusing on the child and their psychology, because they've been into in the house, which they have never seen. And with the kids, it is always, they want to see their friends, etc. So if that focus is there and psychologically we can, do a lot of catching up with them, it will be great. And I'm sure, we can implement this in our houses as well. The other one was, how to make learning a pleasurable experience. That is something that we also keep debating, and it's always good to learn about that. And more about the internalizing the rules. I think while you said in the context of the COVID-19, but I believe it is always there. Okay, it is best we should be monitoring ourselves and internalizing the rules and understand why it needs to be done and what are the implications if we don't follow it, rather than just the fine. So I'm hopeful that this will happen, and a lot of people in the schools will be able to observe that. So thank you so much, sir, for your time today. It was a wonderful experience listening to you. Dr. Correa, thanks to you for taking out time and sharing your valuable insights with us. I'm sure the audience would get that help. My key takeaway is the psychological and emotional challenges or the issues that are going to creep up are going to be the biggest challenge for all the educators, and especially the administrators and teachers in the school. I'm sure it will be there. And from a combined this thing, what I gather is, and message which I like to share with our audience is, we should see technology as a support and a help rather than looking at it as a burden or something that is going to replace us. I personally feel that is not going to happen. No one can replace teachers. As sir also mentioned, Anil Swarup sir also said, the practical training has to still happen. While that is true, he said it in the context of the B.Ed. I think that's what the students also like to have it, because whatever you can achieve through the personal interaction and to the personal training, that can't be done exactly over the webinar. Yes, a lot can be learned, as we are also seeing. So thank you so much, sir, for your time, Dr. Correa and Anil Swarup sir. Really a lot of thanks to you. Thank you, sir. And thanks to all the wonderful audience here. Wish you all the best, and we hope that this session will be quite useful to you all, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumit sir, for your word of thanks. And now I would also like to announce that it is the fifth webinar under Learning and Education Leadership Talk series. We've been conducting these seminars quite frequently, wherein we take suggestions from the teachers, educator community across the nation. We take suggestions from our experts all the time that what should be the next topic for our upcoming webinars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this opportunity to take suggestions, wonderful suggestions from all the wonderful participants by raising a poll. So I'm just raising a poll question in front of you, which has a question with 5-6 options. Please let us know which should be the next topic and the webinar topic for our upcoming series and the upcoming webinar under Learning and Education Leadership Talk series. So I'm just releasing a poll and the question is in front of you. Please suggest to us which should be the next topic for our upcoming webinar under Learning and Education Leadership Talk series. There are options in front of you. I just request you to please give your suggestion to us. Based on that, we're going to serve you up to our best limits. I request all of you to please give your suggestions to us. This poll is going to end within 10 seconds. So people are now suggesting us. So 5 more seconds for you. And here it ends. Thank you. Thank you so much for your precious suggestions. We'll definitely choose the suggested topic and definitely will be able to serve you as per the need and the requirement for the 21st century learners and the great educators. Well, that's all for the day. Thank you so much to our respected chief guest, Shri Anil Swarup sir, and the panelist, Dr. Nicholas Correa, for your valuable inputs and suggestions. Also to our wonderful audience, it was a pleasure being with all of you today. Thank you so much for your active participation. The questions asked by the participants were relevant. Stay tuned and connected with Indiannica Learning for our upcoming webinar under Learning and Education Leadership Talk series. And now I've recently heard from the team that we have integrated this survey form link in the Zoom only. And once you will end this meeting, you will directly, it will directly take you to the Zoom survey link, which will open a survey and a feedback form. I just request you to please spend a couple of minutes and give us your feedback. Your feedback is precious to us. As they say that practice keeps you focused on what you want to do. It is a never-ending refining process. If you are persistent in practice, you will get it. And if you are consistent in practice, you will keep it. I, Swarup Beniwal, signing out for the day. You please stay safe, stay happy. Thank you so much for joining. You all have a great life and a great day. Thank you so much. Namaskar.